Part 23. After getting pregnant, the celibate Buddhist fiercely dotes on his beloved wife. Author, Ju Yi. Chapter 221. Qin Zimu felt itchy with hatred when he thought of Ding Nana's face. If it weren't for this woman, why wouldn't my sister be able to sleep well? Why was your sleep disturbed so early in the morning? What a headache. If this woman is not troublesome, then they will not care about this matter anymore. But this woman decided to attack the Qin family. It also makes my sister so troubled. Then don't blame them, tell Fu Xuanyi about this. Qin Zimu said, Sister, let's tell Fu Xuanyi about Ding Nana's actions, and let Fu Xuanyi deal with her. Qin Junling also had this idea. She could not just watch Ding Nana return to country intact. Without this breath, she would not be called Qin Junling. She picked up her phone, found Fu Xuanyi's number, and dialed it. After a while, she found that Fu Xuanyi had blocked her. Her face was even worse. She put down her phone. Qin Zimu beside her quickly asked, What's wrong, sister? Fu Xuanyi doesn't answer your call. Qin Junling frowned and said, He blocked me. It's more serious than not answering the phone. Hearing this, Qin Zimu was also unhappy for a while. He scolded Fu Xuanyi several times in his heart, took out his mobile phone and said, Use my mobile phone to make calls. Now, this is the only way to contact Fu Xuanyi. Qin Junling took her mobile phone, opened his own mobile phone, entered Fu Xuanyi's number, and dialed again. At the amusement park, Fu Xuanyi was holding Zhizi in his arms, and sitting next to him was Wei Yuxian, who was holding Shishi. The two of them were sitting together in a big pumpkin cart. The cell phone in his pocket rang, and Fu Xuanyi was a little unhappy because it was not working time now and he didn't want anyone to disturb his vacation. Holding his dear little Princess Zhizi in one hand, he took out his cell phone with the other hand and took a look at the caller. It was a series of unfamiliar numbers. Not many people knew his private number, and he had notes for each one. But now, the call came from a series of unfamiliar numbers. He hung up the phone decisively and put the phone back in his pocket. Wei Yuxian next to him asked him, Why don't you answer the phone? Fu Xuanyi said calmly, I don't know you. After saying that, he lowered his head to look at the little Princess Zhizi in his arms, and gently poked her little face with his finger. He didn't dare to use any strength, for fear of hurting his little Princess Zhizi. Just after he poked it twice, the phone in his pocket rang again. He took it out again in a bad mood and found that it was still the same number. Wei Yuxian also stretched out her head and took a look. She guessed that it should be the number just now and said, Why don't you answer the call? Maybe someone you know is in a hurry. Hearing this, Fu Xuanyi said and answered the phone. Explain. Qin Junling over there breathed a sigh of relief when he finally answered the phone and said straight to the point, Mr. Fu, Ding Nana is going to attack Wei Yuxian. She is in the amusement park right now. Fu Xuanyi recognized Qin Junling's voice and asked, How did you know? Qin Junling said, Ding Nana came to me to discuss this matter, but I didn't agree. Although the Qin family and the Fu family had some minor conflicts a few days ago, we still regard the Fu family as friends. I understand. Fu Xuanyi said these 4 words coldly and hung up the phone. It could be heard from Qin Junling's words that she had known about Ding Nana's plan for a long time, but she did not choose to tell him immediately. Now, for reasons unknown, she told him again. Once this effort is over, they can cancel each other out. He didn't pay much attention to this matter, he just thought about it for a moment and then put it behind him. What he should be thinking about now is that Ding Nana is going to take action against his obedience. It seems that Ding Nana was merciful to her back then and gave her a chance to survive and make a comeback. I just don't know what kind of influence she has connected with, and she actually dares to do something under the eyes of the Fu family. Fortunately, she hasn't had time to do anything yet, so they still have time to prepare. Wei Yuxian saw with her own eyes that Fu Xuanyi's face had darkened since he answered the phone, and asked, "What's wrong? What happened?" Fu Xuanyi fiddled with his cell phone to send a message to Lu Changxiao, and said, "Nana Ding is here." Wei Yuxian's eyes widened and she looked at Fu Xuanyi in disbelief. "Ding Nana is here." Fu Xuanyi nodded and said yes, confirming that the news was correct. Wei Yuxian took a deep breath, took a while to digest the news, and said, "I haven't heard this name for a long time." Fu Xuanyi didn't need to tell her, she also knew why Ding Nana was here. Besides her, Wei Yuxian, what else could there be? When Nana Ding was taught like this by Lu Changxiao, she must have held a grudge. These days, she must be recharging her energy and looking for opportunities to take revenge on herself every day. Now, when the time came, she took action. Wei Yuxian hugged Shishi tightly and asked, "What should we do now?" She felt a little panicked. If she was alone, she wouldn't be so panicked, but now she is not alone, there are Shishi and Zhizi. They are still so young, if they get scared or something happens. She didn't know how to accept the news. Fu Xuanyi was still sending a message to Lu Changxiao, saying, "I'll ask someone to come over and go back immediately. It's not safe to stay here. Ding Nana doesn't know when she will take action. He wants to send the people back before she does. Then he tries to catch a turtle in an urn again and arrests the person instead. This time, he will not let her go or give her a chance to come back. It seems that for some people, it is better to eradicate the root cause. Once they are soft-hearted, they will have endless troubles." Wei Yuxian said and had no objection to Fu Xuanyi's arrangement. "It's dangerous here, and they need to leave this place of right and wrong as soon as possible. It was just a pity that I had this opportunity to go out to play. I finally found an opportunity to take Shishi out to play, and this happened to me. They only rode the merry-go-round once. However, safety is the most important thing. Save your life first before talking about anything else." The carousel stopped. Wei Yuxian and Fu Xuanyi did not stop for a moment. They went out from the exit and came to the two elders. They briefly explained the situation and got on the sightseeing car. The second elder's face was also very solemn, and he wished he could find Ding Nana right now and punish her severely. Let her do evil. Let her target Yuxian. Let's see if they don't make her cry. Is there Yuxian someone she can bully? Don't even look at yourself. I'm really tired of trying to take action on the Fu family's territory." Seeing her mother being so angry, Wei Yuxian quickly put Shishi in her arms and said, "Mom, don't be angry. We just need to leave quickly. Nothing will happen." After getting pregnant, the celibate Buddhist fiercely dotes on his beloved wife. Author, Ju Yi. Chapter 222. Fu's mother was comforted by her and saw the little guy in her arms smiling at her, and she was no longer so angry in an instant. Okay, I'm not angry anymore. It's not worth being angry for those individuals," she said. "Actuan, after you catch her, you can't let her go this time." Back then, their family, Yuxian, was bullied by this Ding Nana to the point that she was almost depressed. She has not forgotten this. Fu Xuanyi said coldly, without any emotion. No need for his mother to tell him, he knew what to do this time. Some people just think life is too good, and they don't know how to cherish the opportunity to live, and insist on seeking death. Well, he will help her. Here, Ding Nana and others have been paying close attention to their actions. When they saw them getting into the car, they also got in the car and followed closely. There were so many people in the amusement park that no one noticed anything wrong for a while. Ding Nana looked at their car and asked, "Where is this direction going?" The subordinate checked the map, then mentioned a few attractions, and finally said, "Exit." When Ding Nana heard these two words, she remembered the phone call Fu Xuanyi had just answered. After answering the phone, his expression darkened, and he instantly realized something was wrong. Fu Xuanyi may have received the news at this moment and is thinking of leaving. Ding Nana didn't need to think about it to know who leaked the news. Who else could it be besides Qin Junling? As long as Qin Junling knew her plan, only Qin Junling would betray her. After returning that day, she cried to Barrett and told him how wronged she had been. Barrett coaxed her for a while, saying that he would take revenge on her, and asked her to wait for 2 days, then he would give her a surprise. It seems that now, Barrett has taken action, and Qin Junling has also begun his revenge. After Ding Nana thought about all this, she clenched her molars tightly and wanted to curse. I also really want Barrett to bring down the Qin family now. If it weren't for Qin Junling, her plan would still be going smoothly. She took a deep breath to calm down, picked up the walkie-talkie, and said, "Act now, hit their car first and create chaos." Yes, all the men received the order and immediately began to take action. I saw another sightseeing car suddenly accelerate and hit Wei Yuxian's car. By the time the driver reacted, the car had been hit hard once. Fu Xuanyi's expression turned even colder, staring at the vehicles surrounding him outside. Visitors to the amusement park were shocked when they saw such a turn of events. Later, many people in black got off the sightseeing car, including people from Fu Xuanyi and people from Ding Nana. The two people are easy to distinguish. Fu Xuanyi's people are all from the east, and Ding Nana's people are all from the Yi country. When the tourists saw this situation, they didn't know what was happening, and they started screaming and became confused. Ah! Ah! Fu Xuanyi looked at the people outside. His number was obviously 3 times less. And he had just contacted Lu Changxiao. It would take time for him to bring people over. "Drive," he told the driver. Taking advantage of the chaos, there might be a chance to break out. Ding Nana saw through his intentions and once again ordered people to hit their car and stop them from leaving. The driver was extremely frightened. It was the first time he encountered such a scene. He wanted to take a detour, but found that the car suddenly stalled and could not start. The driver was so anxious that he almost burst into tears. He twisted the key several times but still couldn't turn on the ignition. He turned around and asked Fu Xuanyi, "Guest, what should I do?" The driver is just a young man in his 20s. He hasn't lived enough yet. He doesn't want to die. In such a situation, they couldn't even think about getting out of the car. Fortunately, their people rushed over in time, and Lu Changxiao also accelerated and led people from outside to protect them outside the car. Fu Xuanyi handed his Yi in his arms to his father and said, "Get out of the car first." After several people got out of the car, Fu Xuanyi ordered several bodyguards to protect his wife, children, and elders. The surrounding tourists were in a state of chaos. Everyone was screaming and running around, trying to get away from this place. And the people on Ding Nana's side also began to take official action. Lu Changxiao was responsible for protecting Wei Yuxian and others this time, and ordered his men to confront the group head-on. Both sides started to fight, but before the fight lasted long, the people on Ding Nana's side took out their guns and shot one by one. The scene was even more chaotic, with people running in all directions. Everyone just wanted to survive, so they were running desperately. Wei Yuxian was originally with Fu Xuanyi and Lu Changxiao, but there were too many people. If you bumped into each other, Wei Yuxian became separated from them. No matter how powerful Fu Xuanyi and Lu Changxiao were, there was no way they could rush to her side right now. Ding Nana's people also took the opportunity and went through all kinds of hardships to come to Wei Yuxian's side. Wei Yuxian looked at these tall foreigners and felt a little panicked. When she saw them taking action, they struggled wildly, but failed, and was knocked unconscious and carried on their shoulders. Fu Xuanyi's eyes turned red when he saw Wei Yuxian being treated like this. He pushed away the people around him one by one and tried to rush over. But before he took 2 steps, Several foreigners with guns appeared in front of him, and he was held back. Ding Nana's men had guns, but Lu Xiao's men fell down even after 1 or 2 shots, no matter how powerful they were. No one can rush over to save Wei Yuxian. As soon as Ding Nana saw that she had succeeded, she ordered her men not to fight. Some of them stayed, and some of them left quickly. They got into the car prepared in advance and left the amusement park. Outside, there were Fu Xuanyi's people who continued to rush over. When they saw several cars driving out, they immediately chased after them with vigilance and turned on the speed of life and death. Ding Nana looked at the car catching up behind her, abandoned some of the people, and asked them to stop them. She rushed to a nearby airport with a few bodyguards. Without any hesitation, she got on the private plane and took Wei Yuxian to country E. Looking at the unconscious Wei Yuxian, a proud smile appeared on her face. She reached out and patted Wei Yuxian's face and said, "Wei Yuxian, you finally fell into my hands. This time, I will make you walk around with nothing to eat. Everything I suffered before will be doubled. Back to you." At the amusement park, the fighting was gradually coming to an end. After seeing her leaving, Ding Nana's people also wanted to leave quickly because it was important to save their lives. After all, this is not their territory. Fu Xuanyi can come continuously, but they only have so many people, and the guns in their hands are almost out of bullets. They must withdraw. How could Fu Xuanyi let them go? After more than half an hour, he subdued everyone and took them to the nearest training base. At this moment, his eyes were scarlet, and even his hands were trembling. When he thought of his obedience being taken away in front of his eyes, his heart felt as if it had been cut into pieces by 1,000 knives. He wants to put these people on trial. You have to review it yourself. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. After getting pregnant, the celibate Buddhist fiercely dotes on his beloved wife. Author, Zhu Yi. Chapter 223. When Fu Xuanyi came out of the dark basement, it was already half an hour later. Guan Jinyu took out a portable wet wipe from his arms and handed it to him. Fu Xuanyi wiped the blood from his hands, his face was still so cold and emotionless. He has changed back to the Fu Xuanyi he was before he met Wei Yuxian. Guan Jinyu followed him and asked, "Master Xian, what should we do with those people?" "Leave no one behind." Fu Xuanyi's expression was not only cold, but his tone was also without warmth. Guan Jinyu nodded and glanced at Lu Chengxiao on the other side, who said, "Leave it to me then. I will have people take good care of them and I won't let them get out of trouble so quickly. That group of people, whether they are members of the Barrett family or any other family, is useless. They will not suffer less from the torture they deserve. His group of men have many ways to torture people, and they have more experience than him." Fu Xuanyi's steps were a little hurried, and he walked outside. On the sofa, the two elders were holding Shishi and Zizi, waiting with worried expressions. As soon as she saw the person coming out, Fu's mother quickly asked, "How is it? Has the trial come out? Who did it? Where is Yuxian now?" Fu Xuanyi sat down on the sofa and said, "Barrett family, country E." As a top wealthy family, Fu's mother naturally knew about the Barrett family, one of the two major families in E country. It turns out that Ding Nana actually hooked up with the Barrett family. No wonder she was so confident to return to China and do such a thing. But did she think that by hooking up with the Barrett family, she could be unscrupulous? The Fu family is not afraid of the Barrett family. Right now, Yuxian should be on her way to country E. It takes at least 20 hours to fly from here to country E. It's only been more than an hour now. Yuxian should be fine on the plane. Fu mother Wei. Father Fu thought for a while and said, "We can take advantage of this time to deal with Barrett. I have some friendship with the Jones family." Fu Xuanyi did not hesitate and said, "Please ask father to contact the Jones family. The Jones family is in country E and is a family that can compete with Barrett. It would be great to have their help." Father Fu nodded, took out his cell phone and called the head of the Jones family. It took a while before the call was connected. An old voice came from the other side. It was a man in his 60s. "Fu, it's late at night here. You'd better come to me if you have something important to do. There is almost an 8-hour time difference between country E and Kyoto. The time in Kyoto is around 11 o'clock at the moment, while it is 3 o'clock in the middle of the night in country E." Father Fu spoke fluent E Mandarin and said, "If there was nothing important, I wouldn't bother you at this time. Jones, I really need your help this time." "Say," Jones said, "it's rare that you ask me for help." Father Fu didn't say much. Time was urgent and he said directly, "My daughter-in-law was kidnapped by Barrett, so I want to cooperate with you to make Barrett disappear. From then on, in country E, Jones, you can dominate the family." When Jones heard this, he immediately lost his sleepiness and sat up from the bed, but his movements were very gentle and his voice was kept as low as possible when speaking, so as not to wake up the people around him. He lowered his head and glanced at the sleeping person next to him. He was afraid that the next conversation would disturb her, so he stood up and walked outside the balcony, smiling and saying, "Are you serious?" Your son agreed. He knew that the real person in charge of the Fu family now was Fu Xuanyi, and his good friend Fu rarely interfered with those matters anymore. Father Fu said, "Of course it's true. This is what my son means. Jones, my daughter-in-law is very important. I want to resolve this matter quickly." Jones was so happy over there. He has long disliked that old guy Barrett. However, there is not much difference in strength between the two families, and no one can do anything to the other, but it will be different if the Fu family joins in. This is equivalent to two Jones families dealing with Barrett. Jones asked, "How quickly do you want to resolve this?" Father Fu looked at Fu Xuanyi opposite and said, "Within 1 day." As soon as these words came out, Jones on the other side of the phone became even more excited and said, "Okay. Just within 1 day. Leave all your people here to me and I promise to get it done within 1 day." "Thank you Jones." Fu said, "My son wants to say a few words to you." He saw Fu Xuanyi's eyes and added something later. After saying that, he gave the phone to Fu Xuanyi. Fu Xuanyi also chatted with Jones for a few words and refined the entire plan. The overall situation is as follows: the Fu family and the Jones family will attack Barrett's stock market at the same time. In country E, the Jones family and the Fu family will also attack Barrett together. This time, it was to catch Barrett off guard so that Barrett would not have time to resist. Especially now that it is late at night, it is even more suitable to do these shameful things. Although this is not a good idea, there is no need to use any good means to deal with that old guy Barrett. He actually kidnapped Fu's daughter-in-law, which is really abominable. Fu Xuanyi talked to Jones for 5 minutes, then hung up the phone and returned the phone to his father. At this time, Guan Jinyu beside him said, "Master Xian, the private plane is ready." Fu Xuanyi nodded and said to his father, "Dad, leave the company to you. Mom, take good care of the child." The second elder nodded, and Fu's mother said, "You can go with peace of mind. Your father and I are here at home. There will be no problem in the company, and there will be no problem in the 2 children. You should bring Yuxian back as soon as possible." The elders and the child were relatively lucky and were not injured, because the target of those people was not them, but Wei Yuxian. Almost everyone rushed towards Wei Yuxian. So much so that Fu Xuanyi couldn't save anyone even if he wanted to. Fu Xuanyi said and took Lu Changxiao out without wasting any more time. Guan Jinyu will not go with him this time. He will stay in China and help Fu's father manage the company. After all, Father Fu is getting older and his energy is not as good as before. In addition, he has not been in charge of the company for several years, so he still needs someone to help manage it. Lu Changxiao followed Fu Xuanyi and took the time to call his little girlfriend. Tian Tian, I have to go on a business trip for a while. You have to take care of yourself these days. If you miss me, just send me a message. I will reply when I see it. Yu Wanchen didn't ask him where he was going on a business trip, but asked, how long will it take to go? When will he come back? Is there any danger? She knew Lu Chenxiao's job as a bodyguard, a job that was quite dangerous. She couldn't help but worried that something would happen to Lu Changxiao. What if I come back from this trip with missing arms and legs? She didn't want to see him like that. They had agreed to get married after she graduated from college, and she didn't want anything to happen to him. After getting pregnant, the celibate Buddhist fiercely dotes on his beloved wife. Author, Zhu Yi. Chapter 224. Lu Changxiao didn't know when he would come back and said, if everything goes well, I'll be back in 3 days. It's not dangerous. Don't worry, Tian Tian. Just go to school and don't think so much. I'll be fine. He said this, comforting the person on the other side of the phone. He didn't know if it would be dangerous to go there, and no one could predict what would happen in the future. However, he will try his best not to get hurt and come back intact and appear in front of Tian Tian. Otherwise, Tian Tian might cry again when she sees him getting hurt. Lu Changxiao and Yu Wanchen chatted for a long time, and they didn't hang up the phone until the plane was about to take off. As soon as Fu Xuanyi sat down, he closed his eyes, took off the Buddhist beads from his wrist, and twisted them time and time again to soothe his restless heart. But no matter how he twisted the beads, the irritability in his heart could not be dissipated. Instead, as time passed, it became more and more serious. Be obedient. His obedience. On the countryside, Jones Hebrews, a good friend of Fu's father, left the room happily. Before leaving, he did not forget to take a look at his wife on the bed to confirm that she had not woken up before leaving with peace of mind. As soon as he left the room, he woke the two of them up, told them his plan, and asked them to take action quickly. The two sons looked at their old father who was still so excited in the middle of the night, and they had no choice but to start. Late at night is indeed a good opportunity to attack. When Barrett wakes up, there may be nothing left. Both the Fu family and the Jones family began to take action. Within 2 hours, Barrett's stock market collapsed. The speed was astonishing. Not only that, Hebrew also sent most of the people, as well as all the people of the Fu family in Country E, to act together. On this day, Country E undergoes major changes. As soon as daybreak, everyone knew that the Jones family and the Barrett family were fighting. Moreover, the Jones family also cooperated with the Fu family of Dongfang Kyoto to fight Barrett together. Everyone is speculating on who will win this war. Barrett himself was shocked when he received the news. How could he have imagined that just by helping his lover catch someone, he would get into such trouble? Didn't Nanading say that Wei Yuxian was just Fu Xuanyi's lover? How much weight can a lover have? It's worthy of Fu Xuanyi's massive efforts, and he actually cooperated with Jones. Barrett felt regretful in his heart, and quickly asked people to investigate and lead people to fight to stabilize the stock market. But it was already too late. The Jones family was coming fiercely, and the Barrett family could not survive. Barrett's wife heard that he had brought the company into such a state because of a lover, and decisively chose to join the Jones family's camp to deal with Barrett together. She had no relationship with Barrett in the first place, and now that something happened to him, there was no need for her to stand by his side. The most important thing was to keep herself safe. The Barrett family was finished. It took less than a day to be wiped out by the Jones family and the Fu family. All the foundation they had built up over the years was gone. Barrett himself could not accept such a gap and chose to commit suicide before the Jones family arrived. At this moment, Ding Nana's plane also landed on the border of country E. At this moment, she didn't know that Barrett was finished, and she was happily immersed in the joy of torturing Wei Yuxian. She landed at a remote private airport, where she could deal with Wei Yuxian without anyone noticing, and she could have more fun. Ding Nana had a good sleep on the plane. After getting off the plane, she stretched and asked her men to carry Wei Yuxian down and follow her to the house where the airport was parked. There are several bodyguards in the house, all of whom Barrett gave her so that she can have as much fun as she wants. Now she only thought about torturing Wei Yuxian quickly, but she didn't think of calling Barrett, so she didn't know the true situation of Barrett at this moment. The same goes for the several bodyguards in the house, who are doing nothing in the room and don't know what is going on with the Barrett family. Ding Nana sat down on the sofa. After a while, a bodyguard came to her with lunch and asked her to eat lunch first. She happened to be hungry at the moment, so she thought it was not urgent to deal with Wei Yuxian's matter. Anyway, she would have plenty of time in the future. Even if Fu Xuanyi was very capable, he would not have found this place so quickly. And by the time Fu Xuanyi came for him, Wei Yuxian had no idea how she was being tortured. Thinking of this, Ding Nana was in a good mood and felt that the rice in her hands became more fragrant. Wei Yuxian was tied to a chair by the bodyguards. She woke up a few hours ago. Looking at the unfamiliar environment around her, she felt panic in her heart. This is not Kyoto, but abroad, and the people around her are all foreigners. Now she was really scared. Unlike the last time she was kidnapped by Qin Zimu, she knew the details of Qin Zimu last time and it was in Kyoto. Fu Xuanyi could find her soon and nothing would really happen to her. But it's different now. The person in front of her is Ding Nana, who wants to kill her. Her situation is very dangerous. No, she has to find a way to escape, no matter what. She wants to go back to Kyoto, she wants to live well, watch Shi Shizi grow up, and live her whole life with Fu Xuanyi. She couldn't die so easily. Fu Xuanyi will be sad, and so will his parents. Shishi and Zizi also wonder what they would do if they lost their mother at such a young age. The more Wei Yuxian thought about it, the more scared she became. Ding Nana finished her lunch quickly, wiped her mouth with a napkin, and crossed her legs in a leisurely manner. She lazily asked, "Wei Yuxian, are you scared?" Wei Yuxian looked at her, her mouth tightly closed and she didn't speak. "Are you scared?" "Of course I am afraid. Who wouldn't be afraid when encountering such a thing?" The smile on Ding Nana's lips became more and more obvious, and she said, "It's useless to be afraid. You are in my hands now. Don't think that anyone can save you. This is country E. Even if Fu Xuanyi comes, he will not be like this quick. You said, what if you are already dying when Fu Xuanyi finds you?" After saying that, Ding Nana became even happier and laughed out loud, a little nervously. Wei Yuxian still didn't say a word. She didn't know what her fate would be, but she still had to try her best to find a way to survive. Her hands were tied behind her back, and the bodyguards were all in front, unable to see what was going on behind her. She tried to untie the ropes on her hands, but those people tied them too tightly and she couldn't shake them at all. After Ding Nana said a few words, she was eager to greet Wei Yuxian. She stood up, picked up a whip, and stood in front of Wei Yuxian with a smile on her lips. Just as he was about to take action, a gunshot suddenly came from outside, followed by more and more gunshots and chaotic shouts. "It's a mess, it's a big mess." After getting pregnant, the celibate Buddhist fiercely dotes on his beloved wife. Author, Zhu Yi. Chapter 225. Wei Yuxian naturally heard what was going on outside, but her mood was not much better because she didn't know whether the people outside came to save her or simply had a grudge against Ding Nana. So her current situation is still very dangerous. Being in a foreign country, with no one she knew, and a strange environment, Wei Yuxian felt no sense of security. Ding Nana looked very unhappy and gave the bodyguard a look, asking him to go see what was going on. After receiving the order, the bodyguard immediately went to the window to check the situation. After taking a look, the bodyguard's face turned pale with fright. "Miss, she is from the Jones family. Ding Nana has been with Barrett for so long, so she naturally knows about the Jones family, which is Barrett's mortal enemy." She quickly walked over to check it out in person, and found that it was indeed a member of the Jones family. One by one, they were beating her people to pieces as if they were desperate for their lives. Seeing her people retreating steadily, Ding Nana began to panic. She took out her mobile phone from her pocket and wanted to call Barrett. She doesn't want to die here. She hasn't dealt with Wei Yuxian yet. She wants Barrett to send someone to rescue her. She quickly found Barrett's phone number and called it, but after a long time, no one answered the phone. She could only call him again and again and hang up again and again. Seeing everyone outside being killed one by one, Ding Nana stopped calling Barrett and walked up to Wei Yuxian. She had a premonition that something would happen to her soon, or she would be caught, or die. The Jones family came prepared, and with the few people around her now, there was no way they could compete with them. But she was very unwilling to let something happen like this. She had just caught Wei Yuxian. Was something going to happen before she could take action? No, she will never allow it. Even if she died, she would bring Wei Yuxian with her. With this thought in her mind, she became crazy, even her eyes turned red. She threw away the whip in her hand and looked for suitable things around her. She wants to take Wei Yuxian with her. She must drag Wei Yuxian down with her. It's not too lonely. After looking around the house twice, she finally set her sights on a baseball bat. She walked over quickly, picked up the baseball bat, walked back and said, "Wei Yuxian, I won't survive today, so just go down with me." Wei Yuxian looked at the baseball bat in her hand with fear. Seeing that Ding Nana was really going to kill herself, her heart beat faster. "Ding Nana, calm down. You may not die. Don't be impulsive." Ding Nana laughed, a bit sadly, and said, "Even if I don't die today, I still can't escape. With you by my side, I'm not lonely. My biggest wish in this life is fulfilled." Wei Yuxian wanted to say something more, but Ding Nana no longer wanted to talk nonsense to her. She swung the baseball bat and hit her hard on the back of the head. This force used all her strength. In just one moment, Wei Yuxian fainted, with blood flowing down her hair, looking very scary. Ding Nana is not satisfied yet. This is not enough. Wei Yuxian is still alive, she will continue. She swung the baseball bat again, took aim, and was ready to swing. At this moment, the door to the room was opened, and a bullet flew quickly and passed through Ding Nana's arm. The huge pain made her unable to hold the baseball bat, and it fell to the ground with a snap. "Ah!" Ding Nana cried out in pain, clutching her injured hand tightly, and she suddenly broke out in cold sweat. When the bodyguards saw that someone had broken in, they knew that there was no hope. There were so many people on the other side, and even if they had 3 heads and 6 arms, they would not be able to escape. So they simply gave up resistance and raised their hands to surrender, hoping that the other party would leave them a way to survive. As soon as the Jones family entered, they controlled everyone, including the injured Ding Nana. After controlling the scene, people were brought to the wall to watch, leaving the space in between. A small leader saw that the situation was under control and walked out. After a while, he invited someone in. "Young master, you are under control. Barrett's lover is over there. Fu Xuanyi's wife should be that one. Carrie Jones, the eldest son of the little boss and Hebrew's eldest son, is responsible for the plan to rescue Wei Yuxian." The Barrett family was already in decline, and he naturally looked down upon the remaining weak soldiers. He walked in and looked at the center of the room, where there was a chair with a woman tied to it. Needless to say, he knew that this was Fu Xuanyi's wife. Unexpectedly, Fu Xuanyi's wife looked so petite and probably not too old. He gave his subordinate a look, and the latter immediately understood and stepped forward to untie Wei Yuxian. During the loosening process, he discovered the injury on the back of Wei Yuxian's head and said, "Young master, Mrs. Fu is injured and needs to be sent to the hospital quickly." It was also during the period of loosening that Kylie saw Wei Yuxian's face, and he was stunned after just one glance. What a beautiful person! It makes people fall in love with it when they see it. Seeing that his men were about to pick him up, Kylie stopped him and said, "I'll do it." His subordinates looked at him in surprise and asked uncertainly, "Young master, are you serious? You know, their eldest son is misophobic. I never take the initiative to hug someone. What's more, this person is still a stranger whom I have only met once." Kylie didn't talk nonsense and directly proved the authenticity of his words with actions. All the subordinates were even more surprised. They couldn't believe that the person in front of them was the young master they knew. Is this really their eldest son? How could the eldest young master do such a thing? Kylie held Wei Yuxian in his arms and walked outside step by step. As he walked, he ordered, "Take all the people away, don't let them die." After saying that, he lowered his head to look at the person in his arms. Due to blood loss, the face of the person in his arms turned pale, but this did not affect her beauty at all. In this way, she has a fragile beauty. Kylie couldn't help but use some strength to hold Wei Yuxian's hand, but then he was afraid of hurting her again, so he loosened the extra strength and strode outside with the person in his arms. When he came to the car, his subordinates opened the door for him with great discernment, so that he could smoothly carry Wei Yuxian into the car. As soon as he got into the car and sat down, Kylie frowned and said, "Go to the hospital, hurry up." He could feel that the life of the person in his arms was passing away because he was losing blood. He didn't want her to die, whether it was Fu Xuanyi's fault or his own. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. After getting pregnant, the celibate Buddhist fiercely dotes on his beloved wife. Author, Ju Yi. Chapter 226. The subordinate said yes, quickly started the car, and drove as fast as possible to the nearby hospital. Another subordinate saw that Wei Yuxian's head was still bleeding and said, "Young master, we need to stop Mrs. Fu's bleeding. Otherwise, Mrs. Fu's situation will be very dangerous." Kylie forgot about this, and frowned even more tightly, saying, "Come and stop her bleeding." The men took out the medical kit in the car and began to treat Wei Yuxian's wound. They simply disinfected and wrapped it to stop the bleeding. During this period, Wei Yuxian had been staying in Kylie's arms, and the latter's eyes had been falling on her. Kylie has never seen such a good-looking Oriental person. The appearance is very different from that of country E. The facial lines of Oriental people look softer. Especially the person in his arms looks so petite and adorable. He had seen many Oriental people, most of whom were beauties, but this was the first time he had seen such a beautiful person in his arms. Kylie looked at Wei Yuxian for a while, then said to the driver in front, "Drive faster." His subordinate, "Young master, we are already the fastest. There will be a hospital in 10 minutes. Seeing Wei Yuxian's fragile look, Kylie felt tight in his heart and felt very uncomfortable. He didn't want to see her weak, he wanted to see her healthy. After waiting anxiously, his men finally drove the car to the hospital. Kylie carried the person out of the car and sent the person to the emergency room for surgery. He sat outside the operating room, looking at his hands in a daze, and his mind was filled with Wei Yuxian's face. That weak, lifeless face. He didn't come back to his senses until someone sat down next to him. He glanced at the person next to him and realized it was his father. He called out, "Father." Hebrew said him and asked him, Why are you so dazed? Kylie said honestly, I'm thinking about Fu Xuanyi's wife. Does father know her name? Hebrew laughed and said, it seems to be called, Wei Shixian. Why, do you like her? Kylie thought for a while and nodded, I do like her, but this liking is a bit strange. Hebrew patted his shoulder and said, it's a pity that you don't have a chance. She is Fu Xuanyi's wife now. If you had met her earlier, you might still have a chance. Kylie thought the same thing. It was a pity that he had no chance for this oriental beauty. But that face still kept popping up in his mind, and he couldn't forget it. He became dazed again. It was rare for Hebrew to see his eldest son become like this for a woman. He touched his head and said, Kelly, don't think about it. If you like Easterners, you can just go to the east and find one back. Kylie nodded absently. Wei Yuxian's face was still in his mind. He raised his head and looked in the direction of the operating room. The operation was still going on, and he didn't know how she was doing. She should be fine. He had someone stop her bleeding in time, so her life won't be in danger. He comforted himself in his heart like this. At the airport, Fu Xuanyi's plane had just landed. As soon as he got off the plane, he got into the car he had prepared in advance and called Hebrew. Uncle, has my wife been rescued? Hebrew sighed on the other side of the phone and said, he was rescued. He is being rescued in the hospital now. Xian, come here quickly. After saying that, he reported his address to Fu Xuanyi. Fu Xuanyi's heart was raised fiercely, his Adam's apple rolled, and then he said yes, hung up the phone, and reported his address to the driver. Lu Changxiao leaned over and asked, Master Xian, how is Madam's condition? Has something happened to Madam? He couldn't help but feel worried when he heard Fu Xuanyi reported the address of the hospital. He was still praying in his heart, please don't let anything happen to your wife. Nothing will happen. If something happens to Madam, how will Mr. Xian survive? How long have Master Xian and his wife been married? There wasn't even a wedding. Fu Xuanyi's red eyes looked at the unfamiliar streets outside. It took a long time before he uttered 3 words, I don't know. He doesn't want anything to happen to his Guiguai. If possible, he would rather suffer such a sin on Guiguai's behalf. The driver noticed that something was wrong with Fu Xuanyi's mood, so he drove the car to the fastest speed and silently shortened the time. He didn't know how much time had passed, but Fu Xuanyi felt that every minute and every second was extremely difficult before he finally arrived at the hospital. He walked with his back straight, his face was very cold, and he exuded an aura that kept strangers away from him. He looked no different from usual. But if you look carefully, you can see that he is holding the string of Buddhist beads tightly in his right hand, with such force that it seems like he is going to crush the Buddha. He is not calm, not at all. It's just that he has been holding back and not showing it. Led by members of the Jones family, Fu Xuanyi came to Wei Yuxian's operating room and met Hebrew and Kylie. After saying hello, Fu Xuanyi sat down on the chair and stared at the door of the operating room without saying a word. He was thinking, when will this door open, and what will his Guiguai experience inside? Hebrew sat next to him and told him about the situation here, such as the news that the Barrett family was gone, and that Nanading had also been caught. Fu Xuanyi didn't know if he heard it or not. After hearing it, he could only say hum in a cold voice. If Hebrew hadn't known that he was born with such a character, he would have thought that he was just putting on a show for himself. But he could also understand Fu Xuanyi's mood. After all, his wife was in the operating room, so how could he feel better? He imagined that if his wife was lying in the operating room, he probably couldn't be as calm as Fu Xuanyi. She would keep walking back and forth in front of the operating room and couldn't stop. He patted Fu Xuanyi on the shoulder and comforted him a few words. Seeing that he really didn't have the mind to pay attention to him, he stopped talking. It was also at this moment that Kylie, who had been in a daze, suddenly came to his senses and his eyes lit up. He took his father's hand and said, "Father, come with me. I'll tell you something." Seeing his anxious look, Hebrew explained a few words to Fu Xuanyi and followed him. Kylie hurriedly pulled his father to a deserted place, looked around, and after confirming that no one was there, he said, "Father, I think she is very good looking. I don't like Orientals, I just like her." Hebrew raised his eyebrows. "You haven't given up yet? Fu Xuanyi has come over, so don't think about her real husband. Also, you must not do anything to steal my wife from me. I still want to be friends with Fu." After getting pregnant, the celibate Buddhist fiercely dotes on his beloved wife. Author, Ju Yi. Chapter 227. Kylie frowned deeply, his face became very serious, and said, "Father, I think she looks familiar." Hearing this, Hebrew patted his head and said, "When did you kid learn this? I told you not to learn these things from Basil, but you don't listen, right? Basil is Kylie's third cousin and the eldest son of his second uncle's family. He is quite a romantic person. The most common thing he says to people he is interested in is, 'I think you look familiar.'" Kylie just thought of this, the corners of his mouth twitched, and he scolded Basil in his heart. He quickly comforted his old father and said, "Father, that's not what I meant. I really think she looks familiar." Hebrew still didn't believe what he said. He felt that he just wanted to steal his wife from Fu Xuanyi. He snorted and said, "Then tell me, who does she look like?" Kylie pursed his lips, took a deep breath, and after a while, he said 3 words, "Little ant." Hebrew. Hebrew. He paused for a moment, thinking that he had heard wrongly, but then he thought about it again and realized that he had heard rightly, and the expression on his face turned into shock. He asked in disbelief, You said she, who does she look like?" Kylie didn't hesitate this time and said, "I said she looks like my little aunt." "You sure?" Kylie recalled the appearance of his little aunt in his mind again. The more he thought about it, the more similar he felt that the two of them were similar. He nodded and said, "I'm sure." Hebrew digested the news, and after a while he said, "But the sister born by your aunt has died long ago, maybe she just looks alike." Kylie felt that this matter was not simple. He had a strong intuition that she must be related to them. "Father, we can have her and her uncle do a paternity test. What if she is really his daughter?" He didn't want to miss this opportunity. What if she was really his sister? This could also explain why he liked her so much when he first saw her, but this liking was a bit strange. Because this is not a love between a man and a woman, but a brother's love for his sister. When my uncle came back, when he recalled the past, he would always mention that he and his aunt had given birth to a daughter, which was his sister. But it is a pity that my sister died when she was very young, and she never even called her mom or dad. As for the little aunt, her health deteriorated due to the death of her sister. She died a year after her sister passed away, leaving only the little uncle living alone in the world. They have all seen how lonely the little uncle has been over the years. In the little uncle's room, there are all portraits of the little aunt, including those who are smiling, angry, and in a daze. Many times, the little uncle wanted to go with his aunt and sister, but in the end he insisted because of his grandparents. Speaking of this little uncle, his life experience is also a bit bizarre. He was captured by his enemies when he was young and sent to the East. He suffered a lot and stumbled as he grew up. After a long time, I returned to the Jones family, got to know my grandparents, and had a family. To be honest, he also felt sorry for his little uncle, because his life was so miserable. Even after returning to the Jones family, he still lived in loneliness. Therefore, he didn't want to give up this opportunity, even if it was a 1 in 10,000 chance, he would give it a try. Hebrew thought for a while, then thought about it with Kylie, and said, I'm going to call Basil now and ask him to send your uncle's hair. After saying that, he took out his cell phone, called Basil, and told him to send the hair over quickly. It was very urgent. Basil was so anxious when he heard his uncle's words and knew the seriousness of the matter. He agreed and promised to deliver it as quickly as possible. After explaining Basil, Hebrew found the person in charge of the hospital and asked him to take out a piece of Wei Yuxian's hair to prepare for a paternity test. Today's technological means are so advanced that the results of a paternity test can be obtained in 3 hours, but these 3 hours are still very torturous for Hebrew and others. Basil was still very fast and sent the hair in less than half an hour. The dean personally arranged the paternity test without any hesitation. Nonsense, the person in front of him is Hebrew Jones, the head of the Jones family. Just before this morning, there were 2 wealthy families in country E competing against each other, but now, the Jones family is the only one. As the head of the Jones family, his status is naturally extremely noble. After doing this, Hebrew and Kylie returned to the outside of the operating room and sat down on the chairs opposite Fu Xuanyi. The two of them looked at Fu Xuanyi in unison. If Wei Yuxian is really her uncle's daughter, then Fu Xuanyi is his brother-in-law. To be honest, Carrie couldn't accept this result. The sister I finally found became someone else's? How can this be done? He hasn't had a good time playing with his sister yet. You can't let your sister become someone else's so quickly. Ever since their family found out that their younger uncle had a younger sister, they have always wanted a younger sister. Unfortunately, both the father and the second uncle were dissatisfied, and all they gave birth to were sons. Not even a sister. Every time they see other people's sisters, they are so envious. The two of them looked at Fu Xuanyi for a while, then turned to look at each other, and both saw a complicated look in the other's eyes. Here, Fu Xuanyi no longer stared at the operating room, but leaned back on the chair with his eyes closed, as if he was asleep. But the prayer beads in his hand never stopped turning. It had turned countless times that day. In his heart, he didn't know how many times he told Wei Yuxian to be good. Time passed by minute by second, and 3 hours passed quickly. Wei Yuxian still did not come out of the operating room, but the results of the paternity test came out first. The dean personally came to Hebrew and Kylie with the results. Just as he was about to speak, Hebrew stopped him with a look. Basil, on the other hand, went back after delivering the things to the hospital and had his own things to be busy with. Hebrew and Kylie stood up at the same time, gave the dean a look and asked him to follow them, and then walked to a remote and uninhabited place. Fu Xuanyi opened his eyes, glanced at the direction they left, and said nothing. Lu Chengxiao had been following him, and when he saw that he was finally willing to open his eyes, he asked, "Master Xian, do you want to eat something? Don't overwork yourself, my wife still wants you to take care of me." Fu Xuanyi glanced at the operating room and nodded yes. After getting pregnant, the celibate Buddhist fiercely dotes on his beloved wife. Author, Zhu Yi. Chapter 228. Hebrew and Carrie came to the place where they had just talked again. This time, they were followed by a dean. The dean was holding a document bag in his hand. The result was just put in it and it was still warm. Even he didn't know what the result was. Hebrew took it, opened the file bag, took out the paper inside, and turned directly to the page with the results to see the results. When he saw what was written on it, his eyes widened. I was extremely shocked, and the hand holding the paper started to tremble a little. Kylie also leaned over to look at the results, and then showed the same expression as his father, also very shocked. He pointed at the results on the paper, his hands trembling a little, and asked the dean, "Are you sure there is nothing wrong with this result?" This paternity test was done by the dean in person, and there was absolutely no error. He said, "There will definitely be no mistakes. The head of the family and the eldest young master can rest assured." After Hebrew was shocked, A happy smile appeared on his face and he said, "Okay. This is really great. It couldn't be better." Kylie also laughed and said, "I'm going to call my uncle now and ask him to come over." He took out his cell phone, quickly found his uncle's phone number and dialed it. After more than 20 seconds, the call was answered. "Kelly." Kylie's voice was full of joy, and he said, "Uncle, come to XX hospital quickly, I have a big surprise for you." "Kelly, I don't want to go out today," the person on the other end of the phone said. He is painting now, and the protagonist in the painting is always only one person, and that is his true love, his wife. "Uncle, if you don't come, you will definitely regret it. Believe me, this is definitely a very, very big surprise." Hebrew took his mobile phone over and said, "Hang, I'm here too, come here quickly." When the man named and heard what his elder brother said, he sighed helplessly and said, "Okay, I'll go over now." Hebrew and Kylie suppressed the joy in their hearts and let the dean go about his business, while they returned to the outside of the operating room again. As soon as I returned, the door of the operating room was opened, and doctors, nurses and a hospital bed came out. Fu Xuanyi was the first to walk over and asked in Chinese, "How is my wife?" The doctor said, "The operation was very successful. All we have to do is wait for the patient to wake up and be transferred to the ward." Fu Xuanyi's grip on the beads finally relaxed a lot, and he let go of the battered beads. "Thank you," he said with a hoarse voice. Hebrew and Kylie also came up and looked at the fragile Wei Yuxian on the hospital bed. They were filled with distress, which was no less than that of Fu Xuanyi. Kylie wanted to reach out and touch Wei Yuxian, but thought that the current occasion was inappropriate, so he held back. "Sister, this is his sister." Kylie finally has a sister. Not the kind of sister you recognize, but a sister who is related by blood. Fu Xuanyi noticed that their eyes on Wei Yuxian were a little fiery, and he felt uncomfortable and said, "Uncle, leave the rest to me. You go back and rest first." Although he didn't know why they looked at his obediently like this, he still felt uncomfortable in his heart. How could Hebrews and Carrie be willing to leave at this moment? They haven't seen enough of Wei Yuxian yet. Besides, Anne hasn't come yet. This is Anne's daughter. How can they leave? Hebrew said, "Xian, I want to tell you something later. Let's send Yuxian to the ward first." Now, he finally remembered Wei Yuxian's full name. His baby niece was named Wei Yuxian. What a nice name. There were several folds of laughter on Hebrew's face. Fu Xuanyi couldn't find any reason to drive people away, so he could only endure the discomfort in his heart and agreed with them to send people to the ward. After sending the person to the ward, Fu Xuanyi pulled out a chair and placed it next to the hospital bed. Looking at the person on the bed, his heart broke in pain. He gently picked up Wei Yuxian's hand, put it into his own, held it cherished with both hands, brought it to his lips and kissed it. "Darling, wake up quickly. Wake up and let's go home." Hebrew and Kylie had been watching the action over there, and naturally they also saw Fu Xuanyi kissing Wei Yuxian's hand. They wanted to stop him, but they had no reason to do so. Fu Xuanyi was Yuxian's legal husband and he had obtained the certificate. Even if they were family members, they couldn't stop him from kissing. The two of them looked at each other and sighed, both sighing inwardly that their good cabbage was given away like this. The ward was very quiet, no one spoke. Fu Xuanyi regarded everyone else in the ward as nothing but the person on the bed, hoping that she would wake up soon. I don't know how much time passed, but there was a knock on the door of the room. Kylie stood up suddenly and went to open the door. When he saw the person he wanted to see outside the door, he smiled happily. "Little uncle," he shouted happily. Wei Qiuan said followed him into the ward, and asked, "What's the surprise?" Hearing the sound, Fu Xuanyi finally looked away from Wei Yuxian, looked towards the source of the sound, and saw Wei Qiuan. He felt that this person looked familiar, as if he had seen him somewhere, but when he thought about it carefully, he couldn't figure out where he had seen him before. When he first checked on Wei Yuxian's parents, he left it to Lu Changxiao. He had only seen the photos of the two elders and was not impressed, so he could not match Wei Qiuowen's face. And he never thought that Wei Qiuowen was not dead. It was true that Wei Qiuowen had a car accident that year, but he did not die and was even recognized by the Jones family by some strange combination of circumstances. He is the third son of the Jones family and the youngest son of the old patriarch. Because he wanted to make a break with the past, he left Wei Qiuowen's identity in the East and appeared in Country E with a new identity. Now his name in Country E is N. Jones. Everyone is here, and everyone who should be there is there. Hebrew said, "Xian, come here, let's talk about something." They sat down on the sofa in the ward, looking like they were going to discuss important matters. Fu Xuanyi didn't want to leave Wei Yuxian and wanted to hold her hand all the time, but Hebrew's eyes were so serious, so he could only let go of Wei Yuxian's hand, stand up and walk over. After sitting down, Hebrew took out a document bag, pulled out the paper inside, turned to the side with the results, and said, "This is the paternity test that has just been done. The test results show that these two people are father and daughter." Fu Xuanyi felt a little baffled and didn't know what Hebrew's purpose was in taking out this thing. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. After getting pregnant, the celibate Buddhist fiercely dotes on his beloved wife. Author, Zhu Yi. Chapter 229. Fu Xuanyi and Wei Qiuowen put their eyes on the paper at the same time, wanting to see whose paternity test it was. When the two of them saw the name above, they were stunned at the same time. Fu Xuanyi saw Wei Yuxian's name, and the other name was N. Jones. He didn't recognize it, but it was most likely the man opposite him. So my obedient father is not dead? What about those things he found out with his own hands? Is fake? No, it's impossible, the original result is absolutely true. At this time, Fu Xuanyi finally remembered why the face of the man in front of him seemed familiar, because he was Wei Qiuowen. He remembered the photo of his obedient parents he had seen. The obedient father looked almost like this. It was just that the man in front of him was a little older, so he didn't recognize it immediately. So what exactly happened? What happened after that car accident? Fu Xuanyi has no time to think about that now. He only knows that his obedient biological father is not dead. When Guai Guai wakes up and finds out the news, I'm afraid he will be very happy. When Wei Qiuowen saw these two names, he was stunned for a while, and then he suddenly picked up the paper on the table, put it in front of his eyes and looked at it with wide eyes. The hand holding the paper was shaking a little. He read the result several times, fearing that he might have seen it wrong, and then asked again, "Brother, are you sure this is true?" Hebrew put a hand on his shoulder, calmed his excitement, and said, "It's true. The appraisal I just asked the dean to do personally will not be wrong." Wei Qiuowen was excited, but soon he calmed down and said, "But I saw the eucalyptus dying with my own eyes." Eucalyptus was the nickname he and Lin Xia gave to Wei Yuxian. It was taken from the word wood in Lin Xia's name, as well as his own. It also had another homophonic meaning, hoping that she could grow up safely. When Wei Yuxian was a child, her health was not good and she suffered a lot. Wei Qiuowen was a little confused as to what was going on. He is very loyal to Xia Xia, and only loves Xia Xia. He and Xia Xia only have one child, and they will never have another one. Did something happen that he didn't know about? Hebrew stood up, pulled Wei Qiuowen up, and said, "And, come with me to see what she looks like." Wei Qiuowen put aside the doubts in his mind first and followed Hebrew to get up and go to the hospital bed to see the person. Fu Xuanyi was still sitting on the sofa, making no move to stop them or making a sound. When Wei Qiuwen saw Wei Yuxian's face lying on the bed, his pupils dilated. Picture. So similar. She and Xia are carved from the same mold. If he had bad eyesight, he might mistake her for Xia when she was young. In an instant, Wei Qiuwen's eyes turned red, and tears gathered in his eyes. He stretched out his hand, wanting to touch that face, but he was afraid that it would disturb her rest, because she looked too fragile now, like a fragile porcelain doll that would break at a touch. He lowered his head to wipe away the tears that were about to fall out. When he raised his head, his eyes were so gentle and he looked at Wei Yuxian. He said, "Brother, I want to find out what happened back then." Just as Hebrew was about to say yes and agree to help him investigate, Fu Xuanyi over there said, "Father-in-law, I have found out clearly." Wei Qiuwen didn't know that his father-in-law was calling him this time, so he looked over there inexplicably, at the young man who spoke. Only then did Hebrew remember that he had not introduced Fu Xuanyi's identity to him. He said, "And, we will come over to see the eucalyptus later, and I will introduce someone to you." Wei Qiuwen's mind was full of doubts. In order to find out the truth of the matter, he could only resist the desire to look at his daughter, took a deep breath, and walked back to the sofa. Sitting down, Wei Qiuwen laid his eyes on Fu Xuanyi for the first time and looked him up and down. Hebrew patted Wei Qiuwen on the shoulder and said, "And, his name is Fu Xuanyi, and he is Qiuwen's husband." Fu Xuanyi called again, "Father-in-law." Wei Qiuwen looked at him. He originally thought he looked pretty good, but now that he knew his identity, he immediately disliked him. Probably this is the unified thought of all father-in-laws. Wei Qiuwen can't accept having just one son-in-law, but he can accept having one more daughter. The kind that you can accept immediately. Especially this daughter looks so much like Xia. He asked, "Are you married to Eucalyptus? Have you obtained a marriage certificate?" Fu Xuanyi nodded and said, "Yes, I have received the marriage certificate." Wei Qiuwen took a deep breath and didn't know what to say for a moment. To be honest, he didn't want her to get married so soon. After all, she was only 21 years old, so she was still young. If she was studying, she should still be enjoying college life. At this moment, Fu Xuanyi dropped another piece of bombshell news: "You also have a grandson and a granddaughter." He took out his cell phone, found a family photo and gave it to Wei Qiuwen, saying, "This is Shishi, your grandson, and this is Zizi, your granddaughter." Wei Qiuwen looked at the two children inside and was happy to have two grandchildren, but then he felt a little angry. His daughter was only 21 years old, but she gave birth to two children so quickly. Didn't he marry this brat a long time ago? This brat looks so much older than me, so I won't be fooled by him. Thinking like this, Wei Qiuwen looked at Fu Xuanyi with even more unfriendly eyes. Fu Xuanyi could know how his father-in-law was feeling at the moment. If it were him, he would probably be in a more complicated mood than his father-in-law. He began to divert Wei Qiuwen's attention, talking about Wei Yuxian being replaced, and what kind of life Wei Yuxian had lived since she was a child. He tried to describe these things in the most concise language and as quickly as possible. The three people listened to Fu Xuanyi's words and were extremely angry from the beginning. The more they listened, the angrier they became. They clenched their fists tightly and wanted to hit someone. Especially Wei Qiuwen, he wanted to rush in front of those two people right now and cut them into pieces. His eucalyptus, his and Xiaxia's favorite eucalyptus. If it hadn't been for those two people, Xiaxia wouldn't have been so sad about losing eucalyptus. Her condition became worse day by day, and she finally lost her life. If it weren't for those two people, their family would definitely be able to stay together happily now, extremely happy. And he doesn't have to bear the loneliness for so many years. He can only miss his Xiaxia for the rest of his life. What's even more disgusting is that the family treats his eucalyptus badly. Actually, his eucalyptus has never had any happiness since childhood. He even wants to make money from eucalyptus and suck the blood of eucalyptus. After getting pregnant, the celibate Buddhist fiercely dotes on his beloved wife. Author, Ju Yi. Chapter 230. Wei Qiuowen's eyes were red, and for the first time in so many years, he had thoughts of killing. He hated those two people, and also hated those two people's sons. Their whole family deserved to die. How can such a wicked person still live well in this world? Why doesn't God punish such evil people? He couldn't calm down the anger in his heart, and his breathing became rapid. Hebrew hurriedly said, "An, calm down first. Fortunately, eucalyptus is still alive now, don't you think so?" Wei Qiuowen also wants to calm down, but this concerns his Xia and Yu, so how can he calm down? "Where are those people now?" Wei Qiuowen asked through gritted teeth. That tone, and that look in his eyes would make Father Wei and Mother Wei weak in fear if they saw it. "Don't worry, father-in-law, I have taken care of those people," leaving no one behind after that. He briefly talked about the final outcome of the Wei family. After Wei Qiuowen heard this, he felt relieved and felt that Fu Xuanyi had done a good job. If you kill them, it will be too cheap for them. You just want them to live in this world and live in pain all their lives. Let them try it too, eucalyptus has suffered so much. At this time, Wei Qiuowen looked at Fu Xuanyi no longer as displeased as before, and looked much more satisfied with him. If it hadn't been for this brat, he would probably have suffered even more now, and he wouldn't have known that his wife was still alive in the world. As long as you are happy, nothing else matters. If you marry someone, you will marry someone. As long as you like her, he will agree to it. In the future, he may have to move back to the east. If eucalyptus is over there, then he will also be there, staying with eucalyptus to make up for the regrets of these years. "I agree to your marriage," Wei Qiuowen said to Fu Xuanyi, sincerely satisfied with his son-in-law. "He loves me, treats me well, has a high status, and won't let me be wronged. He is the best choice. And the most important thing is that eucalyptus also likes him. That's enough, as long as eucalyptus likes him. In the future, if you dare to treat him badly, I will take him home immediately." In the Jones family, his status is not bad. Not only is it not bad, if those brats at home knew that they had a sister, they would be so happy that they would fly to the sky. These years have been hard on them. They have always wanted a sister, but they have never had one. "Don't worry, father-in-law, eucalyptus is the only one in my life." He also called Wei Yuxian by her nickname. I found that this nickname is also very nice and cute, and it fits his cuteness very well. Wei Qiuowen nodded and said, "I hope you will do what you say, and I will do what I say. As long as I am still alive in this world, I will not allow anyone to bully her, even if you are the person in charge of the Fu family." "Yes," Fu Xuanyi responded. "How could he treat Guiguai badly? Guiguai is his favorite, his baby. He will protect her, love her, and guard her for the rest of his life. There is no one who loves to be obedient more than him." Wei Qiuowen sighed and thought of what Fu Xuanyi said just now. In the words, his family suffered so much and finally grew up. He got up, came to the chair next to the bed and sat down, finally able to look at his baby girl unscrupulously. It would be nice if he could know the news that eucalyptus is still alive earlier, so that eucalyptus wouldn't have to suffer so much. He took Wei Yuxian's hand again, put it in his palm, warmed it for her, and looked at her pretty face. Seeing this face, he couldn't help but think of his wife. "Xia, look, this is our daughter, she is still alive. The one who died was not our daughter is still alive and well. From now on, I will take good care of her, Fu Xuanyi will also take good care of her, and her brothers, uncles, and aunts will also take good care of her. Don't worry there. I will stay with you here for decades, and then I will go there to stay with you. We will definitely meet again." Fu Xuanyi, Hebrew and Kylie also came to the bedside. The former sat down directly by the bed and also looked at the person lying on the bed, with the distress in his eyes showing once again. "Darling, wake up quickly. When you wake up, there will be a big surprise waiting for you." Several people waited in the ward, waiting patiently for Wei Yuxian to wake up. During this period, Kylie sent a photo to the family group, which was the photo he had just taken of Wei Yuxian, and then sent a message, "This is my uncle's daughter." In an instant, the family group exploded. "What? Brother, what did you say? Is this my uncle's daughter? Don't be ridiculous, where did my little uncle get his daughter? That's right, my uncle is very loyal to his aunt, don't slander my uncle. I will tell my uncle now that you slandered him." At install. The first reaction of everyone was that they didn't believe it. Some even wondered whether Kylie's phone number had been stolen, which was why he sent out such incredible news. "What a joke, who doesn't know that my uncle's sister died when she was very young? They won't believe what this liar says." Wei Qiuan felt his phone vibrate, and he originally ignored it, but after it vibrated several more times, he had to take it out to see who had sent him the message. When he clicked into the family group, he saw a lot of his messages, so he swiped up to see what was going on. After a while, he sent a message in the group, "Kylie is right, this is my daughter, Eucalyptus, she is still alive." Seeing that these people didn't believe him, Kylie ran to take a picture of the paternity test and send it to the public. With Wei Qiuan's personal explanation, everyone believed that this was true. The group was quiet for a while, and then it became lively again. "So, I have a sister. I also have a sister, ha ha ha. Oh God. Our Jones family finally has a little princess. Aten, where is Eucalyptus now? I want to go see her." These words were spoken by the wife of Hebrew, who is Wei Qiuan's sister-in-law and Wei Yuxian's aunt. As soon as the words came out, several brothers in the group also quickly sent messages asking Kylie and Wei Qiuan to tell them the address, and they had to rush there immediately. Kylie sent the address of the hospital, and the group became quiet, and everyone was driving over. It was also at this time that Wei Yuxian finally moved on the bed. She slowly opened her eyes and looked at the white ceiling, her mind confused. Fu Xuanyi was the first to notice that she woke up. He felt relieved and shouted in a hoarse voice, "Be good." When Wei Yuxian heard the movement, she slowly turned her head away and asked, full of doubts, "Who are you?"